Good morning, students. So, um, this presentation will cover the chapter 13 to chapter 18. Previously, we have uploaded presentations on chapter 1 to 12, and apart from that, characterization, art of characterization, brief introduction about Jane Austen, other relevant slides were uploaded. So, without wasting any time, let's move on. So, in this presentation, we will have summary, analysis, and important quotes. So, let's begin. So, this is chapter 13, important lines, and two quotes are mentioned over here. One is from Elizabeth Bennet, and one is from Mr. Bennet, and in both of the comments you will find a new character, Mr. Collins. So please go through the quotes over here, and you will find that it's sort of these two characters, when they are conversing with each other, they are actually providing a brief introduction of the character Collins. So without wasting any time here, let's move to the second section, the summary. So what you got here, a surprise guest will visit the Bennet family, and Mr. Bennet reveals that to his family members, and his name is, the surprise guest is Mr. Collins. He is the relative who will inherit Mr. Bennet's estate. Now, why that is? Why the Bennet sister will not get the inheritance? Back in those days, the laws were different from our current one. So that's why it was Mr. Collins who will inherit that. The news upsets Mrs. Bennet. Mrs. Bennet was definitely upset with this news, and when she realizes that Mr. Collins can legally kick Mrs. Bennet and her daughters out of the house when Mr. Bennet dies. But the way Mr. Collins wrote the letter, it provides him a little bit happiness. Now, the letter explains that Mr. Collins is now a parish rector and enjoys the patronage of Lady Catherine de Bourgh. That means, in this chapter, two new characters will be introduced. One is Mr. Collins, who is writing this letter, and in that letter, another character, Lady Catherine de Bourgh, who happens to be the aunt of Fitzwilliam Darcy, is also mentioned over here, and who is a very rich lady actually. He now seeks to make peace in the family by some unspecified plan, and when Mr. Collins arrives, he is heavy, pompous, and dark. He is not very, like a person with whom we would like to spend time. So his conversation is weighted and overwrought compliments and vague hints about making amends of the Bennet daughters. Now, analysis is, Collins is Mr. Bennet's heir because women were not allowed to inherit. This is the reason they are not getting it. This explains Mrs. Bennet's obsession about getting her daughters married, and Mrs. Bennet's she is planning to get one of the Bennet sister get married with Mr. Collins, so that she may live in that estate where she is living right now. It was the only way to ensure their financial security and her own if her husband died before she did. So basically, sort of futuristic plan over here. Mr. Collins gets ahead in the world, not through his own virtues, but by sucking up to the rich and by his almost arbitrary future inheritance of the Bennet's property. Mr. Collins is actually using his connections and somebody else's property to live a life. He is not that kind of person who will earn of his own. Rather, that's why the word sucking up is used over here. Austen makes Mr. Collins a ridiculous comic figure. obviously. He's a comic figure, I must say. He's short in height. In the process of mocking, all sucks up. So this is chapter 14. Now we have some important lines over here. This is a comment made by Mr. Collins. We'll go through it and we will understand his character a little bit. And then the important lines, we have the narrator has one important line over here. Mr. Bennet's expectation were fully answered. His cousin was as absurd as he had hoped. So that means there is the narrator is Jane Austen herself. So through this line you can understand the attitude of Jane Austen towards Mr. Collins. I have often observed how little young ladies are interested by books of a serious tone, though written solely for their benefit. This is said by Mr. Collins. But after dinner, Mr. Bennet gets Mr. Collins talking about his favorite subject, his benefactress, Lady Catherine de Bourgh, her lavish estate, Rosings. Rosings is a place, and the invalid daughter who will inherit it all. So he's actually basically he's trying to describe his connection with Lady Catherine and how rich she is. So Mr. Bennet sits back to enjoy the absurdity of Mr. Collins' hollow praising self-importance. So this is happening in chapter 14. Mr. Bennet invites Mr. Collins to read to the ladies, offered a novel. Mr. Collins flinches in disgust and chooses instead a book of sermons. So reading novels were in fashion back in those days. But Mr. Collins do not agree with that. He is not that kind of fellow who will enjoy novels. Rather, he chooses instead a book of sermons. Lydia, refusing to listen to this religious preaching, is not welcome everywhere. It's not necessary that everybody will like it. Interrupts with bits of news about Colonel Forster. Mr. Collins seems insulted but accepts the family's apologies and joins Mr. Bennet in a game of backgammon. So basically, he changed the plan. Now, the analysis is although a clergyman, Mr. Collins is obsessed with the worldly glories of wealth and rank. And this is interesting. A person who is a clergyman should have ignored the greed or the glories of worldly wealth and rank, but it seems he still possesses this quality. Mr. Collins himself seems to have no center. He lives only to please Lady de Bourgh. That's why that word "suck up" has been used earlier. Austen uses Mr. Collins' distaste for novels to poke fun at them, at deed and common prejudice against the immorality of novels. Even if you read the Rape of the Lock, you will find that there's a story of Arabella Farmana. So in that particular case, she is described as Belinda, and there was a conflict with Lord Peter. So the Lord Peter is offering or praying to the gods while he is using some French novels. So the reference is given to there also. And back in those days, novels were considered to be immoral. But Mr. Collins' readiness to play a board game instead of reading the scripture shows his shallow commitment to the gospel. You do not like novel, but you love to play board game. That shows your shallow commitment to the gospel. Now, in chapter 15, you have three important quotes from the narrator. The narrator clearly says in the first quote, it's not a Mr. Collins was not a sensible man, and so on. And then Mrs. Bennet treasured up the hint and trusted that she might soon have two daughters married, and the man, Mr. Collins, whom she could not bear to speak of the day before, was now high in her good graces. See, Mrs. Bennet was not happy with Mr. Collins at first when she heard the news that Mr. Collins might appear. But the moment she realizes that Mr. Collins would be one of the husband for her daughters, she immediately changed her view. Elizabeth, happening to see the countenance of both as they looked at each other, was all astonishment at the effect of the meeting, and so on. So there's another character, Mr. Wickham. After a few moments, touched his hat, a salutation which Mr. Darcy just designed to return. What could be the meaning of it? Now, this is a hint that Mr. Wickham, the appearance of Mr. Wickham, and the weird behavior from Mr. Darcy shows that there is a conflict between these two characters. Might have. It is not been clear till now, but it will be. So, another important lines we have here: Elizabeth, happening to see the countenance of both. Yep, he was looking at each other. Fitzwilliam Darcy and Wickham. They seems to be very cold to each other. So, what could be the meaning of it? We know the meaning, definitely, but the narrator is asking this question. The summary: Mr. Collins come to Longbourn with a plan to marry one of the Bennet sisters. Well, that's why Mrs. Bennet is happy. He believes that doing so will atone for the injustice of his taking over their inheritance. Even he believes that the property should be distributed among the sisters. That's why he says that he believes injustice is taking over their inheritance. So he privately tells Mrs. Bennet this intention. She redirects his direct from Jane. So apparently, if you see the movie, you will find it is a hilarious situation actually. Mr. Collins expresses interest about Jane, and the moment he did, Mrs. Bennet requested him or informed him that Jane is already engaged or is going to be engaged with Bingley, but you do not need to worry about it. My next daughter is available. Elizabeth is available, like that. So she redirects his target from Jane, whom she hopes will marry Bingley, to Elizabeth. Mr. Collins also obligingly agrees to shift his focus. Mr. Collins doesn't have any problem with this, because he needs a wife. You know, if you remember the opening line of the chapter, you will understand that he needs a wife, whoever it might be. It might be Jane, it might be Elizabeth, it doesn't matter. So Mr. Collins joins the Bennet sister in a walk to Meryton, and there everyone's attention is captured by a striking, unfamiliar young man, Mr. Wickham. So 3 characters was actually introduced so far. New 3 characters: Mr. Collins, Lady Catherine, actually 4 characters, Lady Catherine and her daughter, and now this one is Mr. Wickham, who is a gentleman actually, who just accepted a post in the regiment. Wickham's conversation is friendly and lively. Later on we will realize that he is the villain actually. So then we have Bingley and Darcy come up the street and stop to chat. When Darcy and Wickham see each other, each man recoils in shock. See, it happens, or it is clear that Darcy and Wickham, they are actually known to each other, but might have some bitter past. Elizabeth wonders how they know each other. She doesn't know the story, so that's why she was wondering what's going on. Mr. Collins and the Bennet sisters then go to visit Mrs. Phillips, who invites them to dinner the next night. The girls convince her to invite Wickham too, and as Wickham was with them, so they convince Mrs. Phillips, please invite Wickham too. So Mr. Collins' plan falls far short for providing the Bennet girls with any kind of self-determination. You can see that. In addition, though he possesses a man of conviction, his love interest can change in the blink of an eye. See, this is very interesting. It appears he is very serious, but when he finds there is no option, he immediately shifts his love interest. Wickham is a master of first impressions. Yes, a lot of people do that. As such, he tests Elizabeth's belief that she can see through lies and falseness to uncover the truth in things. Yeah, Wickham is a master of illusion, I might say, and he used his appearance to impress Elizabeth. Austen creates tension here. The details Elizabeth most wants to know are the one she can't ask about out of politeness. What is the story behind it? That means the strange look exchanged by Wickham and Fitzwilliam Darcy. That is creating a sort of tension over here. At this point, Elizabeth seems to like a Wickham. Yep, this is something new here. In part because he causes Darcy discomfort. Yes, this is a very common thing, and because the presence of Wickham creates a discomfort to Darcy, and Elizabeth is not very fond of Darcy, so that's why she seems to be, falling for Wickham. Now we have some important lines from chapter 16. Two comments are over here, one from the narrator and Mr. Wickham. So where we can see that Mr. Wickham is actually spewing venom against Mr. Darcy. The world is blinded by his fortune and consequences, or frightened by his high and imposing manners, and sees him only as he chooses to be seen. So this is typical Mr. Wickham. So at the dinner evening, Elizabeth is fascinated by Wickham's pleasant demeanor. The two of them easily fall in conversation. Quite okay, because Elizabeth is already impressed. Elizabeth says he is widely disliked for this pride. Wickham withholds an opinion out of respect for Darcy's father, and later on Wickham reveals was his godfather and dear friend. So that's the story behind it. Wickham explains that he was the son of Darcy's father's employee, and he gives the story to Elizabeth. And Darcy's father died and left Wickham money to pursue a career in the ministry, but Darcy was jealous. Same story here. He is making a villain out of Darcy. Elizabeth is shocked and appalled. Elizabeth asks Darcy's sister, about sister. Wickham says he an accomplished young woman. Later on we will find that he was trying to seduce her, but that she is like her brother, distastefully proud. Actually, Wickham is creating a false narrative for Fitzwilliam Darcy. Wickham, hearing Mr. Collins go on about Lady Catherine, informs Elizabeth that Lady Catherine is actually Darcy's aunt. He adds that Lady Catherine apparently hopes to marry Darcy to her daughter. This is something interesting over here. That's why we will understand, later on we will understand why Lady Catherine was so furious about the probable relationship between Elizabeth and Darcy. At the end of the novel, you will get to that. So on the surface, Wickham is pleasant and well-mannered. Elizabeth will remember later while Wickham says he withholds an opinion on Darcy, but he soon goes ahead and gives one. But Elizabeth is under his spell, does not notice now. With close relationship to her own siblings and a keen sense of justice, Elizabeth is predisposed to believe Wickham's story. Now, this is a life lesson actually. Whom you trust. She trusted Wickham's story. So now she got a picture, she will follow that. The story also fits perfectly with her own existing prejudices about Darcy. Yes, she already believed that Darcy is very proud and is not a good man actually. Now this is a lie, but Wickham is doing it deliberately. He is trying to separate his former victim means Georgina, and degrade her too. Such an arranged marriage would have been no surprise to Elizabeth. Lady Catherine seems to share Darcy's pride, their extreme high class status. She accepts all the thing actually. She accepts all the thing. Now this is the last chapter today we are going to deal with. Now this is a quotation from Jane Bennet. Laugh as much you choose. I think there is a spelling mistake. There is a comment from the narrator, from Mary Bennet also, and another one from the narrator. So please go through that. Now what we got here, the summary. Next, Elizabeth tells Jane that what she learned from Wickham. Obviously Jane cannot believe that Darcy could be so blameworthy, and there must be some other part of story which Elizabeth is not interested, but Jane is. But Elizabeth believes Wickham saying there was truth in his look. She wonders. So actually she believes in the looks of Wickham. Strange, no? Now Bingley and his sisters visit Longbourn with an invitation to a ball at Netherfield, and Lydia Kitty were overjoyed. See, if you remember, Lydia previously asked Bingley to throw a ball, and Bingley responded in this manner that after Jane is recovered, then we can do so. Jane is also excited to see Bingley. Obviously she was clearly in love. Elizabeth looks forward to dancing with Wickham, though Collins requests that she give him the first two dances. Collins was after her, and she had no option but to accept it. So she did it actually out of politeness. Now Elizabeth dismisses Jane for only seeing the good in people. Here at the same time, Elizabeth bases her own preference for Wickham entirely on his looks. See, Elizabeth is lecturing or actually asking Jane for seeing the good in people. But on the other hand, Elizabeth believes totally on the looks of Wickham. Dancing is the closest thing to intimate physical contact allowed between unmarried people. It's a thrill. Dancing is itself a thrill, because it is the only way when man and woman can come physically closer. So that's a pure thrill if you are unmarried. From chapter 18 we can see we have some comments from the narrator and Elizabeth Bennet, and another from Mr. Bennet. Please go through these lines. Now summary, we have arriving at the ball Netherfield, and Elizabeth is disappointed that Wickham is not in the party. She was looking for Wickham, but she didn't find Wickham. Elizabeth blames Darcy. She thought that Darcy could have done something. She endures 2 dreadful dances with Mr. Collins, and Darcy then asked Elizabeth for a dance, and surprisingly Elizabeth accepted. Their conversation was abrupt. Darcy is uncomfortable when she brings up Wickham, obviously. Afterward, Caroline approaches Elizabeth about Wickham. He wasn't wronged by Darcy, she says. On the contrary, Wickham treated Darcy terribly, and now Darcy has nothing to do with him. So Jane, who has been speaking to Bingley, tells Elizabeth the same story. The fault, whatever it is, was Wickham's. Even Jane got the story also, but Elizabeth refuses to believe it. Elizabeth actually in her mind hates Darcy so much that she is not in a position to accept any of the other part of the story. The rest of the evening is a disaster. Obviously, Mr. Collins rudely introduces himself to Darcy and later pontification to the whole assembly. Darcy overhears Mrs. Bennet talking about Jane and Bingley like they are already married. Yes, this is a real fault of Mrs. Bennet. Mary insists on playing the piano and does so awfully. So her father asked her to stop, and Mrs. Bennet conspires to be the last to leave. Realizing that her family's reputation is falling lower than ever, Elizabeth is mortified. Elizabeth realized that the actions done by Mrs. Bennet is hurting her family's reputation more. Elizabeth is set in her own prejudice analysis. You can see that's why the title is Pride and Prejudice. No? Darcy's dance invites shows his growing feelings for Elizabeth, but now Elizabeth's prejudice against him is in full effect. Now Elizabeth now has evidence from various sources that it was Wickham, not Darcy. She got this evidence, but she didn't believe it. But Elizabeth pridefully chooses to go with her prejudices against Darcy and for Wickham. So this is how prejudices works, isn't it? Elizabeth and Jane have a social grace that their family members sorely lack. If Darcy's major concern about Elizabeth was her family, the Bennets do everything to prove that his prejudice against them is accurate. So that's the end of chapter 18. I hope you understand all the things. Please like, share and subscribe my channel. And if you have any questions, please ask those questions either in your WhatsApp group or leave your comment with this presentation on YouTube. Thank you. Goodbye.